W, set, and predicting. It is stated as, for a given problem instances X with features, find the selection mapping into algorithm space such that the selected algorithm maximizes the performance mapping. However, it is necessary to obtain formally a deeper understanding of why this phenomenon occurs. Next, please. In the next level of delving deeper into knowledge learned by the last level, the next question arises. What is the mechanism to understand why for each pair a problem instance subset corresponds better to an algorithm AQ than other subsets in a specific problem domain? Okay. Next, please. A general review. Okay. It's a diagram about the trajectory of some words related to analysis, their experimental relation between problem and algorithm. X is, shows their understanding levels, descriptive, predictive, explanatory, and also principal approaches to apply in the analysis to this in the analysis of this relation between problem and algorithm. Axis Y shows the relevant information included in the analysis. Firstly, only algorithm performance after problem features and algorithm performance. In this case, problem features can be described by the problem structure features and space problem space. After only information about algorithm and algorithm performance and features of the algorithm can be described by behavior, operative behavior of the algorithm, searching behavior of the algorithm. Okay. This. And the last, both information. Information from problem, information from algorithm, and so algorithm performance. As you can see, there is a few words in this level. Okay, and next, please. This reviewing indicates there is no word that analyzes all kinds of information, problem and algorithm, indexes, or issue, in conjunction with the algorithm logic structure. Algorithm logic structure is important. In the majority of cases, it is seen as a block box. It is important to open the box and identify logical parts relevant to the connection of the algorithm and problem during the solution process. Next. Setting the problem statement. There is no problem statement. There is no formal problem statement. In this paper, formulate this problem. For a set of algorithms A with logical internal structure, each one applied to a set of problem instances B with problem indexes F, algorithm indexes L, the algorithm's performance space Y, the set of the algorithm termination partitions W. According to Y, and another in pair, find the explanation mapping that discovers an explanation formal model M such that M represents the latent knowledge from relations between problem and algorithm indexes and provide solid foundation to explain why certain problem instances being interpretation CQ correspond better to algorithm AQ with certain logical internal structure according to performance space Y, and why other partitions do not correspond to algorithm AQ with certain logical external structure. Next. Next. Framework general proposal and guidelines. Okay. It is a proposal and it's a result from this review general and other a set of works related to analysis of the experimental relation between problem and algorithm. And so the literature is considered too. First, we set a problem and algorithms to study. And next, we in here we set one algorithm and set the algorithm space, set P problem space, and there is a characterization process from this algorithm. We observe the algorithm operative behavior. We obtain features from this, and we obtain features from algorithm searching behavior, and we observe the internal logical structure. So, and also we measure the algorithm performance. After that, we obtain a set L with algorithm features space, and we obtain a set W domains partition. So in the other is the side, we obtain features from problem about the structure, about the space problem. So we obtain the set F instances features space. All this information enter to data preprocessing. So we select significant integer feature and clean also. And we obtain composite function to describe explanation mapping E, and the result is a model M. Okay. And the validation for this model in first time is a prediction process. So this prediction is upper to some umbral, okay, we next to hypothesis formulations that give insights from model M. And algorithm redesign, this is important because this knowledge, latent knowledge, can be to modify the algorithm logical structure and redesign. So apply to another instances problem instances, and to validate if the new algorithm is better than the original algorithm. Validation, so and it is true, accepted hypothesis. So if yes, these insights can be represent theoretical support to generate theories. These theories help us generalize indexes and build self-adaptive algorithms. So this is important because it's important to know what's happened between experimental relation between problem and algorithm. because this can find theories help to self-adaptive algorithms. So it is a process, repetitive, continuous. So explore ways, and it, um, it is the objective. That's all. Thank you. Any questions?
If there is no question, which is a really good question for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I would like to invite then Irene Francesca Sturgeon. Am I right? Okay. Yeah. From well, which university? Okay. Stellenbosch University from South Africa. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Floor is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm Francesca. I'm actually also doing that. Excited to okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Hello again.
Today.
I'm excited to present what I've done with my co-author, Professor Kudin. Our paper's topic modeling for characterizing COVID-19 misinformation on Twitter, a South African case study. So just to provide some background for this study, is that the COVID-19 pandemic was a huge global event in the last few years, and in some cases, people are still dealing with its effects, and lots of people have still have health problems, and it's a major event. And during COVID, we've seen a lot of misinformation and fake news and those kinds of things being spread all over. And one place that we've seen especially happening is on social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, Instagram and so on. And it's become such a big problem that the director of the World Health Organization said that not only are we dealing with a pandemic, we are also dealing with an infodemic. Because misinformation about cures for COVID and certain health measures and so on can be very dangerous and destructive if people start drinking substances that can kill you and thinking it's a cure. So yeah, it's a very big problem. Sorry, I went to the wrong side. Yes, that's the one. So in South Africa, we've also got this the infodemic. So since March 2020, many rumors about COVID-19 have spread. So much so that the South African government also introduced a law that said that if you spread something that is confirmed to be false information like COVID, you could be fined regularly, you go into jail. So even the government saw that it's a big problem. And some journalists and other stakeholders launched a platform called Real 411, where members of the public could submit complaints about Twitter posts or other social media posts that they thought were misleading, and then that would go to a panel of journalists, technical experts, legal experts, and they would then classify that as misinformation or not. According to South Africa's constitution as well, for what constitutes misinformation, because in every country there are different laws regarding those kinds of things. So some examples of COVID-19 misinformation in South Africa is that, and their effects, is that there was a rumor that 5G causes COVID, and people destroyed 3 cell phone towers in KwaZulu-Natal, which is a province in South Africa, because they thought the cell phone towers would give them COVID. And then also the government provided financial relief for people, so when people ran scams on social media to target vulnerable people. And then also other rumors that the pandemic was fake and that the government was just using it to pursue some other hidden agenda. Yeah. So related work on misinformation is so traditionally fact-checking is performed manually by fact-checking professionals, journalists, and so on. But this is not really easily scaled to large volumes of social media data. One person can't go through 1 million tweets a day and try and get information out of that. Because of that reason, there's been increased interest in automated methods of characterizing misinformation. And in some cases, it's formulated as a binary classification problem, where people are trying to classify if this misinformation or not. But the problem with that is that data sets that are accurate and up to date are difficult to come by and to maintain. So previous work that's been done specifically in South Africa is a previous paper that we did, which is which formulates, which uses supervised methods. So we tried to train a misinformation classifier on labeled data sets from other countries, such as America, because there weren't any available data sets in South Africa. But we found that the contexts are just too different. There are different rumors circulating, different prominent people and politicians involved. So another big problem is actually that misinformation labels can become outdated very quickly because what you know about a virus or a situation changes with time. So there's a development of rumors and narratives, and just classifying it with a binary classifier isn't very helpful to map what has happened. We decided to then rather try an unsupervised approach that does not require labeled data. So we can go to the next slide. So we decided to use topic model, which is a text modeling technique, and the specific algorithm we used is word topic. So word topic uses a lot of other techniques in order to create and extract topics from large corpus of text. So it consists of the embedding submodel, dimensionality reduction submodel, clustering submodel, then the tokenizer, and then a weighting scheme. So essentially what happens is you take text, you use a transformer-based model typically, and convert those texts into an embedding or vector representation. And those embeddings are very large, so you have to reduce the dimensionality from, let's say, 700 to, for example, to 5, so that you can cluster it according to the embeddings. The texts that are then allocated to each cluster are then tokenized, and a weighting scheme is then used to extract the most important terms for each of those topics. If you can go to the next slide. So for our model configuration, we used the sentence transformer embedding model. We used UMAP to do the dimensionality reduction. We used HDB scan for the clustering, and then the weighting scheme is CTF-RDF, which is just a class-based way of determining the importance of terms. So our data sources, unlabeled South African Twitter data was collected. We collected them through the Twitter API that we get active access to, so we could get access to all the tweets for March and April 2020 if they weren't private or removed by Twitter itself. So we collected tweets about COVID-19. Sorry, this is back for a second. About COVID-19 and posted with the South African location tag. Lovely. So for training the model, we kept most parameters fixed because the topic works quite well just out of the box. But the topics are the parameters that we tuned with the number of neighbors for the dimensionality reduction and the minimum topic size for the clustering. So we tried 36 different combinations of these parameters, and we changed 30 models for each combination. And then we measured the performance of the average coherence score for each combination. And then we used a statistical procedure, the man-Whitney U-test, to determine the best combination of parameters. So next slide. For the final model, we found that the best parameters were number of neighbors of 50 and the minimum topic size of 500. And this yielded a model with 34 topics. So what we then did is label each topic based on its representative terms and the tweets labeled to, the tweets aside. So you go and read the most representative tweets and the top 10 or 20 terms for each topic. So we then put all the topics into different categories just to ease the analysis. And we can see here that the topics correspond very well to people's experiences of the pandemic. Like people, topics related to people's experience of the lockdown. For example, has to do with exercise and relationships and personal care. There was the economic impact of the pandemic on businesses. Different countries' experiences of the pandemic were also discussed. You can go to the next slide. So here you can just see some of the top terms for each of the topics. Go to the next slide. And then specific topics that were related to mis or disinformation was the topic related to China, the topic related to news and leadership, and the topic related to ethnicity. Go to the next slide. So for the China topic, we saw a number of things regarding the origin of the virus. So people speculating about different places that the virus came from, different motivations for the creation of the virus or the spread of the virus, which is quite interesting. We also found within that topic a link between China, COVID-19, and 5G. So people linking those things, and then also mistrust towards China and the World Health Organization's reported COVID-19 statistics. And there you can just see the development or the number of tweets over time for that topic. There's the next slide. And then the news and leadership topic, the topic in general is about the role of media and leadership in information dissemination and also regulating harmful information. So it's interesting in this topic, we didn't see the actual rumors in the tweet text itself because people were just using words like fake news, misinformation, disinformation, but they posted URL links in their tweets, and when you follow that, you can trace back the rumor to where it came from or where they saw it. And then you can go to the next slide. And then the ethnicity topic is related to ethnicity and the disparity of wealth and treatment related to it, which in itself is not misinformation, but within the topic we found speculation that some population groups are less affected by the virus than others. So people speculated that certain population groups were immune to the virus. And then that's the one extreme, and then at the other extreme you would have rumors that speculated that the same population group was being targeted by the virus. So it's very interesting dynamics that you can pick up. You can go to the next slide. So key insights that we got from using that approach was that we could find instances of misinformation on Twitter, but it's difficult within a topic to distinguish between misinformation, general information, opinions, and questions on the level of individual tweets. But in our opinion, it's still much more useful than a classifier that only distinguishes between, that only has a binary classification, because it can place those topics in relation with each other and provide more information about how people are discussing these topics, what they think about it and what they say about it. So we thought that perhaps a topic model with more fine-grained topics could potentially better subdivide the tweets into more uniform or pure topics, and then they could be more representative of the specific narratives that are sometimes a bit more niche or not as popular as mainstream topics. And also other metrics besides coherence might be more useful for assessing the performance of topic models for this application. Because topic models were originally designed to classify, for example, academic texts or news articles, which are quite long, and you would rather than with a more general overview of topics rather than digging down into the specific, more finer topics. Here's the next slide. So then we just tried out an alternate topic modeling approach. So we trained another model with a minimum topic size of 100. We didn't tune any of the parameters. This model produced 157 topics. And we saw that there was much better separation between topics as we expected. And the larger topics of the previous model that we saw in the previous model were split into the constituting smaller topics. So, for example, we see 5G. Sorry.
I think 5G has become its own separate topic.
Yes, exactly. So it's not part of the larger China topic anymore. It's on its own. And what's very interesting, and I think also very cool, is that the model is able to cluster topics that are about 5G causing COVID separate from topics that are about 5G related to people working from home and they have to get data on their phones and those kinds of things. And we see a lot of rumors that could potentially be related to misinformation. So, for example, here's the 5G topic. We see here Bill Gates. There were lots of rumors about Bill Gates and vaccination and so on. And then also about cures about the cures for the virus. So yeah, it's very, very interesting topic that we were able to extract. Go on to the next slide. So the conclusions and recommendations that we have for work in this direction is to use firstly alternate metrics for evaluating the performance of topic models for the specific application. And then also NLP resources for African languages are lacking, especially for mixtures of naturally occurring language. Yeah, because I forgot to mention earlier that the South African Twitter data, even though it's tagged as English by Twitter, it's actually a mixture of languages. You can have up to 4 languages in a tweet. So if you want a more accurate representation about what the whole population is saying, you need a model that is trained specifically on those languages, but not also on their own, used together, so code switching, for code switching specifically. And then recommendations for future research areas is the curation of labeled South African misinformation data sets. So you can use the tweets that you find allocated to different topics. You could then give those to an expert who then confirms is this misinformation or not. But as I mentioned before, that's problematic because it could become outdated very quickly. And yeah, and then also certainly development of NLP resources for African languages such as tokenizers and lexicons and dictionaries and so on. So work that we are currently doing to further this approach is to use dynamic topic modeling, where you can track the development of a topic or a narrative over time. So then you can see how a topic is split into similar topics, but that are that's split and then rejoin again. So that's a kind of interesting work. And then incorporate other aspects of NLP such as sentiment analysis and identity recognition. And then we also trained a language model on our Twitter data, and we haven't got the results of using it for yet.
Very interesting topic. Any questions? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Did you use unsupervised learning algorithm?
Yes, yes. So the topic is unsupervised uses classroom. So we use HDBSM, which is a density-based, hierarchical density-based
Yeah.
So I was wondering, just how context specific could the final topics be? Because the reason why I zeroed in on 5G, as you showed in the presentation, was because 5G conspiracy theories also exist in Greece, but not in relation to COVID-19, or at least not exclusively COVID-19, but more having to do with the great replacement theory, which is its own topic entirely. So I was thinking that how did you manage to capture how these rumors and disinformation theories evolved and perhaps like branched out over those 2 months of daily time?
Yes, that's a great part of it. So this model that you trained on right now is a global model that's trained on a full data set in 2 months. So it's just all the data is different. But what we're doing now is trying to see how we can dynamically model these time periods, and that's exactly what you can see is that how maybe a larger time split, and then you will see. Because what you can do is you can have the top terms of the topic, you can transform that into the data, and then you can find the similarities for to different areas of the topics. So you can see how it splits and how it basically.
I'm not aware of any other cross-national comparisons of training data on similar topics, or is that something that hasn't emerged yet?
It's been done extensively in the global north, Europe and America. But in Africa, there's also studies on circulation, but not on social media specifically. And there's definitely not like this approach on such a large corpus of Twitter data and specifically focused on this information.
Yeah.
Google group photo. So would you put the ICCSA underscore?
Or conspiracy.
Yeah, so the idea of this is actually to maybe create a tool that is available to use because it's very difficult for me as an engineer to say, oh, this is now fake news and this is not. So you rather want to just have this data analysis of the data through an expert user for them. Thank you.
Very cool. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Francisco. Now, before we conclude our session, I would like to invite you to give big applause to our two staffs from National University, Technical University of Athens. Thank you very much for your help. And also, thank you all the presenters and participants. Now, let's
Ah, no, semplicemente. No, no, qualcuno. Can you hear me? Someone at the open mic?
Maybe they should turn their own speakers on.
Ok. Vuoi provare? Abbiamo già. Perfetto, entrato.
Ok, è andato, perfetto.
Mi sto solo chiedendo se devo condividere in qualche modo.
Ok, ora possiamo, non so, se vuole annunciare un
Sì,
attimo
sì.
e poi condividiamo lo schermo per la presentazione.
D'accordo, ma dove lo condividiamo? Qui?
Sì, share da
questo,
qui e
qui,
poi
ok.
condividiamo, apriamo un attimo la presentazione della cartellina. Dovremmo andare qua dopo.
Go to this one, yes, window.
Però dobbiamo aprire un attimo la presentazione.
Sì, va bene, va
e creare
bene.
la
Ok,
finestra.
ok.
No,
Is this-
aperta.
Questo. This one? Ok, ok,
Ora torniamo indietro e condividiamo lo schermo.
perfetto. Ora dico due parole, poi dopo.
Ok, perfetto.
Aspetta. Un attimo, non premo il scale. Non va.
Provi là. Noi possiamo dire con due parole dopo quando arriva la nota.
Ok.
Così non la
Perfetto.
interrompiamo e la facciamo.
So, good morning. Welcome to this session on artificial intelligence advanced learning technologies. We started. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear.
Okay, welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome. So we started this workshop a few years ago. It was a good intuition. That was actually before COVID. COVID you know, COVID-19 changed the scenario of e-learning, and in particular, at the same time, artificial intelligence technologies became very relevant in this field, in every field actually, but especially in this field. And this was the initial idea of this workshop, and we will continue with this initiative. So let me introduce to you the first speaker, which is Professor Guillermo De Ita della Benemerita Università Autónoma de Puebla from Mexico. He is going to present building a knowledge network, knowledge base based on belief religion operator. Please, Guillermo, you can take my place if you need.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you can stand. Non abbiamo condiviso. Ok, va bene, mi può. Yes.
Okay. It's okay. Okay, good morning. Okay, thank you. Okay, this work is to study how to cooperate among different artificial intelligence agents in order to take a decision in a team. How this class of artificial agents can cooperate, can decide with new information. In this case, we are working in the propositional calculus, only propositions, and we are considering that there are a group of agents, and each agent has a knowledge, a base knowledge. In this case, is K, and it introduces a new information that is phi. The first thing is if this new information phi can be implicated by each knowledge base. It is not implicated, then each agent has to will a new formula, in this case is S, that had to be added to their knowledge in order to implicate the new information phi. In this case, we are considering that the knowledge base K and phi are in conjuncting force. So it's a conjunction of clauses. And the first task is to review if the new information phi is implicated by K. If phi is not implicated by K, then we have to will these sets, the set of falsified assignments for K and for phi. And well, this is the common problem when we are considering a group of different artificial agents. And when new information is considered, the problem is now as belief revision problem. and is symbolized by this symbol. And we are working for 2 years, more or less, previously, working in this belief revision operator. And we have designed a new belief revision operator. And now we are extending this work, considering a new group of agents, not only one agent. Instead, we consider a group. The belief revision operator has been working for several years before, and we had published different works about this operator, the belief revision operator, and it had been developed to consider new information in general. So we extend this belief revision operator, considering now that we have different knowledge base, because there are different agents, and each agent has different beliefs about the world. So how to take a decision for different peoples which have different beliefs. In this case, each agent has his own knowledge base, and when we consider a multi-agent system, we abbreviate NAS. NAS have to take a decision, so each agent has to consider the new information feed and have to apply the belief revision operator over this new information. And after, we have to consider for each new information, what is the weight that each agent gives to that information. So the same clause or the same proposition could have different weights for each agent. Then we have to consider the average of the weights of the new information for all the agents, and to normalize this average. And then to compare the weight of the new information with the knowledge base that the agent has previously. So each agent had to calculate the relative weight of that new information. This relative weight had to be considered to normalize with the weight of the information that each agent has. And finally, each agent has to compute the clause that they need to accept that new information. And that set of clauses had to be weighted. In this case, we developed the formulas for compute the weight of that new information according how is this new set of clauses. It is a literal, it is a clause, or it is a conjunctive form. For each one has different formulas to calculate the weight of that new information. And finally, to get the degree of belief of each agent, AEA, and to compute then the beliefs of the group and the degree of belief of the collective knowledge base or the collective MAS. And we define a threshold in order to accept or to reject that new information given by the group. So the group calculate the degree of belief and it compared with the threshold of acceptation of that new information. And in this way, the new belief is accepted, then the knowledge base for each agent is updated in this way. And if not, the new information is rejected. So this model is in order to consider the cooperation of the group of agents, how to decide if a new information is accepted or is rejected. In this case, we are considering only propositional logic and had different applications. We had developed an application in order to consider the opinion of different specialists about the COVID, and they can take a decision in group. Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I ask the public if they have any questions about this talk. Please come ahead. Okay, I have one short question. Did you test your framework on a real situation? Or?
Yes, but only considering one agent, no in the group. I was working the last year. We are develop an application for the COVID.
For the COVID, okay.
Yeah.
There is a question. You can come here, maybe you speak in front of the microphone. Can you approach?
Thank you, first of all. I have a question related to the domain of knowledge. What if, probably I didn't get it from the presentation, but what if the group have different typologies of knowledge, like that would lead them to different decisions? How do you decide which new knowledge is accepted or rejected?
Yes, in this case, each agent can be with different specialties, and they have different knowledge. There are usually, for example,
so that the online audience.
Yeah, if you can speak
Okay.
toward the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, is for example with a doctor groups, the doctors have different specialties and they have different consideration, different knowledge. So the knowledge base has different weight for each information. That is the reason that there are different knowledge bases and different ways to weigh that knowledge base.
Okay. Any other question? No? Okay. Thank you again. So I'm glad to ask Valentina Franzoni will be presenting the next paper. Next presentation will be, let me Let me show you. Classification text writing proficiency of L2 learners. L2 means second language learner. People who learn a language which is not their mother tongue. This paper is co-authored by Valentina Franzoni, myself, and Giulio Biondi, which is online in this moment. Please. And Valentino Santucci from the University of Foreigners of Perugia. Please, Valentina.
Yes, thank you. So I started telling that I am also a co-organizer of this workshop, and we are organizing this workshop since several years. And this work was also presented in a previous step, of course, with a different study in the previous, in Malaga, I think last year, in ICCSA. So maybe some of the listeners can remember the other studies to which this is linked. So since I speak standing, I move. Okay. Perfect. So let's go on.
Yeah, place it
no.
here. And just so that it's not dangling over the
Yeah,
edge.
I will not let it fall. Okay. So basically this project is about automating the classification of the proficiency level, which means the complexity of the text and how the student can deal with this complexity. So it's a quite challenging task because text complexity is very well known to literature, but not to computer science. Has never been automated before now. And something that makes it even harder is to consider the phraseological dimension, which is very important, especially in Italian, because we are speaking about Italian language learners, for the complexity of the text and for the understanding of the text. And we are using these proficiency levels called the CEFR. I will say CEFR in the following of my presentation, which is the Common European Framework of Reference for Language, usually on reading, writing, listening, and speaking. If you know the ones for English, it's the same level classification. And we also compared some different classifiers to see which one can deal better with the phraseological dimension features. So we start from the PRIN project called the FRAME, Phraseological Measures of Complexity in Italian as a Second Language, where our dataset is built with students' written examinations from an Italian university for foreigners, where they teach Italian to foreigners. The CEFR classification is quite important because it's a recognized standard. So the definition of our problem is a problem of supervised classification because in our dataset we have already the levels labeled on the text. And so we train our classifiers with the features about phraseological complexity computed from the text extracted by this dataset, which is called CELI, with Italian pronunciation is cieli, like skies. And the phraseological complexity is analyzed in this work by the means of diversity and sophistication, which we will see later. This is a brief overview of the classifiers that we tested. We will see them again later in the results. So we use this CELI dataset comprising the text written by Italian learners of language of Italian, which are labeled according to these levels, which are B1, B2, C1, and C2. And we will see in our results that these levels are not classified with the same accuracy, because from the confusion matrix, when I speak, you can see that some of these levels are easier to classify and some are less easier. So to analyze the text, we parsed the text and we looked at the dependency of tokens of text. In particular, we consider these dependencies: the OBJ, the direct object of a verb, the AMOD, which is an adjective modifying the meaning of the nominal head, so a modifier, that's why mod, and the adv mod, which is also a modifier, but in this case an adverb. And then the conjunction that can link more than two tokens. These are some statistics on the tokens of our dataset. And here you can see a simple example of just one Italian phrase. Cambiare stile di vita, luogo, lavoro è sempre comunque un'esperienza positiva che ci rende più forti. In English it would sound like to change lifestyle, place of work is always a positive experience that can make you more empowered. So here you can see from the UDPy, which is the software that we use for the parsing. In previous works we compared many different parsers. This looks the best. This is the way how the parser computes the sentence and splits the tokens. And in these links, we basically have the name of the kind of dependency that we have between the tokens. So we told that we focus on text diversity and text sophistication. Text diversity is quite easy to compute because we can use the root type token ratio, RTRR, and some variations of it based on the specific modifiers. So looking only at a specific kind of modifier, not at the whole text. And this measures the degree of lexical diversity. T in the formula is the count of different types in the text, and N is the total number of tokens in the text. Instead, for text sophistication, the situation is a bit harder, because the traditional way that people from literature departments approaches by hand manually is to select uncommon word combination in a text, and we could potentially use a list of sophisticated words or otherwise a list of very frequent combinations which are not sophisticated because very frequent. But these lists in Italian are not available. So we had to find another approach, which is estimating the association between words by means of an appropriate measure, which is frequency-based, so statistic-based. We used in particular these two measures in our work, PMI, punctual mutual information, and log dice. The collocation scoring higher association values usually carries a distinctive meaning, so it can be considered associated with sophistication. And the frequency can be calculated on an external corpus, if the corpus that you are analyzing is too small. And we used a very big one for Italian language, which is called PAISA. And PAISA is used to calculate the occurrence and co-occurrence and the total number of tokens for the particular words that then we calculated for the pointwise mutual information and the log dice. So this is the pointwise mutual information. Very briefly, it's the association between two terms with their occurrence and co-occurrence. So the occurrence of the single term, co-occurrence, X and Y together. And they are co-occurring each time they appear under the same dependency link in this case. Log dice is instead a very standard measure to quantify the tendency of two tokens to occur together. So it's the same concept with two different metrics for evaluation. We tested 5 different combinations of this feature because we wanted to see which one of the diversity and sophistication contribute more than the other, or how they behave combined together. And we did separate tests for sophistication with PMI and with log dice, with their feature and with also the diversity features together. So here we have 5 slides of results from the 5 texts. On the bottom right part, we have the accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 for all the classifiers. The one in bold is the best performing. And on the top left part, we have the confusion metrics for the best classifier. So from the confusion metric, we can clearly see that there are evident, apparent differences between the levels of proficiency. Some can be classified better, some less, but the results are still acceptable for all of them. So for test 1, the diversity, the best classifier was the quadratic discriminant analysis. And with respect to the linear discriminant analysis, the quadratic can learn quadratic boundaries, and so it's more flexible. And these classifiers are very attractive because they have a closed form solution that can be easily computed, because they are also multi-class, inherently multi-class, and they have no hyperparameter to tune, so they are quite easy to use, let's say, without setting the parameters. For test number 2, for the sophistication only, the best classifier is the polynomial support vector machines. We will see that support vector machines behave good with respect to other classifiers. You can see that we have 3 SVMs. But this model in particular tries to maximize the width of the margin between classes using a polynomial class boundary. And for the regression, it uses a polynomial function for the predictor. So the result for test 3, sophistication with PMI plus diversity, had the linear support vector machine as a best classifier. So we see again the support vector machine, but with an easier version. Going on, we can see that this sophistication with log dice again has the polynomial support vector machine as the best. So we can conclude that for the sophistication in general, the polynomial SVM is the best classifier to use. Instead, for test 5, sophistication with the log dice plus diversity, so the 2 features combined for diversity and sophistication, we have again the linear support vector machine. So only for this test, the test 5, I am showing you a histogram of the F1 that combines precision and recall. And we can see that in general, SVMs works quite well, and they are followed by random forests, and then also by QDA, which was the best in the first test. So in conclusion, we can see from the results the promising capability of this framework to assess the text complexity level using different features. We can see that the best outcomes are obtained combining the diversity and sophistication. If you took a look to the numbers, I didn't stay because of the time. And I recall that the best accuracy is of 67.85 and the best F1 of 76.28 with the support vector machines. So again, we highlight that support vector machines works well. Of course, when we compare classifiers, we don't want to choose one classifier for one case and another for another case, but we want to see which one can work best on every case. So we suggest support vector machines for this test. And this result improves the results obtained by us with the same project for the classification of the CEFR Italian language 2 in the literature. And that's all. If you have any question, you can tell me. Otherwise, you have here our contacts, and we can reply even later if you like.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. We are asking the public online and in presence if you have any question, please. You have a question? No.
No.
Okay. I will not ask a question to myself as usual, even if the chair is supposed to ask a question. Okay, I think we can pass to the next speaker, which is online. I saw Dylan is online, please. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Togliamo la condivisione di questa.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Dylan Bakir, I saw you.
Yeah,
And
yes.
you are welcome to present your paper on question answering.
Yes, I am.
Please, I think you can share the slides.
Yes, I share. Okay.
Can you see the button to share?
No, okay.
I think is after the counting from the left. Is the third one. Yes, we see.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Dylan, please.
Okay. I starting.
You have about 10 minutes talking, 5 minutes, no more than 50 minutes in total.
Okay.
So we are already late. If you are shorter, we appreciate. But anyway, you have 50.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Dear all, my name is Dilan Bakır. I am from in Yıldız Technical University in Turkey. Today, I explanation and approach the decentralized hybrid question answering systems.
Okay.
My presentation includes this agenda topics. First topics, introductions. First, second topics, research questions. Other questions, proposed methodology, and prototype application and experimental study. Question answering systems are secure models based programs that find the most accurate answer to query by using given text. In today's world, QA system software is run on different platforms by various institutions. This means that users have to use different QA system software to find the most accurate answer to their queries. But there's a lack of systems that allow these types of systems to be used in hybrid manner on single interface. To address the issue, this research investigates software architectures that will enable case systems trained with different datasets, various platforms to be used with a single programming interface. To demonstrate the feasibility and usefulness of the proposed hybrid question answering system framework, software architectures prototype software has been developed. The performance of the developed prototype software has been compared with standalone QS systems software based on application time performance metric. The obtained results demonstrate that the proposed framework software architecture has negligible processing overheads. I have several questions, resource questions. First questions, what are technical requirements and software architecture for developing the hybrid question answering system from framework that access multiple systems straight on different data sets and different platforms and single interface. Second question, how can hybrid question answering system framework be developed to enable multiple question answering system to be accessed to a single interface? And third, what are the considerations for integration QS systems trained on different data sets and run on different platforms within hybrid framework? Fourth question, how can we evaluate performance of hybrid questions answering system from the execution time performance metrics perspective? The framework we proposed of several modules. Distributor module. This module is responsible for relaying incoming requests to corresponding question and answer subsystems. And the distributed model is not dependent on technology used in subsystems. It is one layer above the subsystems. Hence, if the subsystems implementations change, this will not affect the functioning of the distributed model. Data post-processing modules, here the results will be processed for tasks like, for example, supports removal, lowercase, blah, blah. Federator module, here the results will be processed for this model is responsible to federating the results coming from more than one question and answer systems. It includes two sub-modules. Each is responsible for federation methods. Here we only implemented union and intersection-based result federations. We discussed details of these methods below. Federated model, if we depict the question answering system as sequence, we can show it as sequence hello world, the other sentence explorer world. Union, the union two sequence contains all elements in either sequence without duplicates. For examples, if A union B hello explore the board. Intersections to sequence contains only elements that appear in both sections. A intersection B words. Prototype applications and experimental study. This study, by designing hybrid question answering system, we observed measure the execution time of hybrid systems by taking the results from many transformer models and hybrid systems. The results according to execution time and standard deviation is table 1. By sending request 30 times in row, we calculate execution time and standard deviation of each response. We obtained from BERT T5 transformer models and hybrid response and show them table 1. Table 1 show that the hybrid systems offers negligible runtime by comparing the execution time by given and additional load systems. Our goal here is to integrate many transformer models into a hybrid system and to establish more effective and useful system without losing time. And we have examination success of the hybrid systems. The results indicate that hybrid systems and answering system has negligible processing overheads. Hence, provides hybrid QA systems capability by providing competitive execution time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any question from Dylan Bakir?
Yes.
Okay. I think we are short of time and we can go ahead with the next presentation. I kindly ask Beatrice Mecca or Elena Todella to come and continue to chair this session. Please come ahead.
Okay, we can continue.
Thank you again, Bakir.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
We can continue this session with two contributions related to the HASUS workshop that focuses on discussing the role of the measurement and the evaluation that the role of that measurement evaluation can play in the development of policies that make our cities more sustainable. So we can start from the first speaker. So I ask to Giulio Cavana to come here. He will present a methodological framework to assess individual sustainable behavior.
Allora, lo apriamo così o con Library Office? Perché non si può mettere full screen. Cioè nel senso che non fa, salta. E quindi la possiamo aprire così, se va bene.
Va bene anche normale, senza problemi. Cioè nel senso, senza andare in full screen al massimo si perde un po'.
Altrimenti così.
Okay. It's locked from another user. It says you can only open it to read it. Open read only.
Va bene lo stesso anche tranquillamente, al massimo.
Okay, yeah.
Grazie.
So you have,
Condividiamo un attimo lo schermo.
And we also show you when you have 5 minutes.
There we go.
Hello, everybody. I'm Giulio Cavana, and today I'm going to present you a methodological framework to assess individual sustainable behavior, co-authored by Professor Marta Bottero and Sara Viazzo from Polytechnic of Turin. As an outline of the contents that I'm going to present, I think, anyway. First of all, I will go briefly on introducing the context, then the aim, and then presenting some evaluation protocols that are applied usually in urban sustainability domain and environmental footprint of individuals, and then introduce the sustainable game that we propose as a methodology to assess and to promote behavioral change in individuals. And then some preliminary conclusion and results from the methodological application to a data set of a previous study. When talking about cities, they are recognized as one of the most major contributor to the impact of the human society on the environment, and several concepts have been developed to mitigate this impact, such as the circular city context and several other agendas. For example, the 2030 agenda has been proposed to mitigate and to reduce this impact. When talking about cities, the role of individuals is fundamental in achieving such goals that, for example, European or the UN has set, and has been demonstrated that the behavior of individuals has a major impact, for example, in water consumption and recycling patterns, and also in building sector, and specifically in building sector, it has been recognized and called for a performance gap when assessing the different performance of buildings when simulated and when really operated in a real world by the user, thanks to due to this information gap of how to operate correctly the assets. In fact, in engaging with sustainable behavior, the role of information possessed by the individual is fundamental, affecting two of the main aspects of behavioral theory related to behavior of individuals, and namely the perceived behavioral control and self-efficacy. The first seen as the amount of control that people have in performing their action, and the second is the ability of people to implement sustainable actions regardless of their the context that surround them. So therefore, the aim of this study is to propose an index that could inform individual on their actual sustainability of their behavior, and to combine it in a serious game in order to promote and support the transition toward a more sustainable behavior of users. In the context of the evaluation protocols, so as a background of this research, in the context of the city, a lot of evaluation protocols of sustainability of cities has been proposed in literature. And for example, there are some of them that started as evaluation protocols focusing more on the building level and then expanding to the district and city level in order to take into consideration different aspects such as the society, environment, and in the economy. And the second branch is the one represented by the self-reporting systems that are basically useful to benchmark assets and portfolios of assets on a huge plethora of examples. Considering the individual dimension, the environmental impact of individuals is usually evaluated through ecological footprint calculator, usually called also carbon footprint calculator, due to their specific focus on the carbon emission related to individual behavioral patterns. And the goal of these calculators is mostly to monitor and to monitor the behavior and the evaluate and the individual environmental impacts of individuals, and to give them feedback in order to influence their self-efficacy and thus to promote a change to more sustainable behavior. In literature, most of these calculators are have been recognized as limited in their impact due to the limitation of the frequency of their use, and therefore the limitation of the frequency of the feedbacks that they are capable of to provide to the user. The proposed sustainability game, so the serious game that we propose to tackle these shortcomings of these calculators, is based on the sustainability index, that is a measure of the percentage of sustainability that a person has in their day-to-day life, ranging from a 0 to 100% scale, in which the 0% represent a completely unsustainable behavior of the individual, and the 100% is represent the fully sustainable behavior of the person. In order to better communicate these kind of results and to have a first-hand feedback and actionable feedback, the ranking is based on a ranking scale similar to the evaluation protocols that are used mainly at the city level, and is represented by this system of medals that represent, in this gamified environment, the scale in which the individual belongs. After that, there is also the possibility to extend this. There is the extension of this framework, in which the single user interact with the community, with other players, combining their sustainability index in the team sustainability index, and the game leverage on the competition aspect in the gamification environment. Talking about the gamification, the inclusion of game design feature to real-world context is usually used as a system to promote the delivery of more sustainable behavior from human beings, and to better inform them about their actual behavior and the actual impact on environment. And especially on the footprint calculators, it has been seen as a possibility to reduce the one-off effect, one-use effect of the already existing calculator, and also the possibility to add this competition feature has been seen as a possibility to better leverage on other aspects of behavioral change theory, such as the group norm and the social norms in the framework proposed by Eisen and Rowe. The mechanic of the game is a pretty simple one, and is based on the first calculation of points that represent the sustainable behavior that try to quantify the sustainable behavior of the user, based on three main scoring mechanisms. The first one is the self-reported action. Therefore, the user can self-report which kind of action from a certain data set of provided ones he or her or she has performed in a daily-to-day basis, and this is specifically addressing one of the problem of this carbon calculator, that is the fact that they don't usually provide actionable feedbacks. The second one is the fruition of online content that are provided by the game itself, and thus through the platform that has been designed for the game itself, and these specifically target the increase of knowledge of the user. And the last part, the last possibility, is to quantify the continuity, and so the repetitiveness of interaction that the user has with the game itself, and therefore to reduce and to counteract the one-use effect related to this carbon footprint calculators. A second step is then to normalize this system of points into the ranking categories that we proposed, and therefore to use a function of A, Q, and C to calculate the sustainability of the individual behavior. And then, at the last part, is the calculation of the average sustainability index, averaged on the number of players in the same community in order to have an aggregated results that can be again communicated to the user. Oh, I think maybe we switch back to the PowerPoint because it's.
You can pass this here.
I think the format is going quite.
This happened because we went through.
Changes
No, that's.
Oops, sorry. I just proceeded with that. If it's okay. Okay, and should I?
How do we share that with the minorities?
Sorry for that.
Ah, sì.
Share already still seeing the liberals. Yeah, still seeing the liberals.
Scusa. No, figurati. Nei computer. No.
Oh, but maybe they say that, but we have to go with PowerPoint here.
Okay.
But this one, right? Can go. Okay. Sorry. Well, the analytic definition of the sustainability index calculator then is basically based on a logarithmic function that on A, Q, and C multiplied by 9/k plus 1, with A representing the self-reported action, Q the online content points that could be scored by the user, and C the recurrency of the interaction of the user with the game itself. Then a consistency constraint has been applied in order to not exceed the quantity k, that is the total number of actions that can be performed by the user. Therefore, to limit the sustainability index calculator from 0 to 100%. The choice for the logarithmic function is motivated by the fact that it could enhance the participation of the users in the that are less prone to behave sustainably, because with it relate a small number of actions performed by the user with higher level of points achieved in the first part of the curve, while the increasing of the number of actions that are performed by the user see a decrease in the marginal effect on the sustainability index. This is motivated by the fact that usually carbon footprint indicators, calculators, are not enough challenging for the more pro-environmental user, while they are too engaging for the less pro-environment users. Therefore, this is this differentiating system to calculate it in order to promote the, not to depress the slacking members, but not to make the game too easy for the more sustainable one. The second non-linear function is the one introduced for the calculation of C, that has an exponential relation with the continuative login days of the user, in order to be more rewarding the more the user interact with the game itself. Overall, the game is the architecture of the game basically start with asking the individual which are the action he performed in terms of sustainability behavior. For example, there is in the energy domain the reduction of the set point of his heating system and the increase of the cooling system in summer, for example, or the turn off the lights while moving from a room to another, and several others in other categories such as water, trash, and waste disposal, and the mobility pattern you use compared to the more business as usual one. And then after self-reporting the action, the calculator calculates the sustainability index and assign a medal, therefore communicate how sustainable the user is compared to the benchmark. In terms of continuity, the effect of the exponential function to the continuity takes into consideration the pattern of continuity of the user, we see in the first graph a continuous behave of the user in which he or she interact with the game daily, and therefore the effect on his sustainability index indicator. Sustainability index is marked with the red line compared to the blue line that exclude the calculation of C. In the second one, we can see a pattern of use that is more punctual, so the user interact with the platform one day yes, one day no, and so there are big peaks. Therefore, the user, when he interact with the platform, he score high level of points, but he or she has a discontinuous behave, while the third one has lower relative points considering the daily behave, but he has a more continuous use, and therefore he or she is more rewarded by these mechanics. This is again to promote the continuity of the use, and therefore to maintain and to construct better the change to a sustainable habit in the user itself. As a preliminary result, we try to apply this to a dataset of uses of this platform in a pilot case, and trying to exclude the different component in order to understand what is the impact of different mechanics of point scoring to the average sustainability index that we propose. Therefore, just counting the action, we see that there is a quite low level of sustainability index achieved, and it has to be considered that the number of participants is 77 in this case, while 17 is the maximum number of user that logs in daily. Therefore, the number of inactive user is quite high. And if we introduce the Q, so the consumption of online materials, we see that the sustainability index is definitely higher. But of course, this is due to the fact that we consider that as the fact that all the user consume online material during the day of the experiment. Excluding then Q and introducing C, we see a small amount of changes that's related again to the slacking effect of the inactive user. When combining all the three together, the slacking effect is definitely reduced, and the sustainability index is quite high in terms of points. And here we have a synoptic way scene of the four experiment mutually excluding this aspect. In conclusion, the role of the individuals is fundamental in order to achieve these sustainability goals and sustainability patterns, and therefore we need some tools in order to promote this kind of sustainable changings and to construct more eco-friendly, eco-conscious habits in the users. The game we propose is definitely trying to achieve that, and we tried on the pilot case to see what is the impact of such games. And in this application, we are also trying to see how possible communication campaigns and strategies could increase the use of the game, and therefore the better delivery of a behavioral change through the formation of new habits due to the continuity of users. And one of the things that has to be taken into consideration while presenting the results is then to both presenting the results to the user in both aggregated and disaggregated in the individual scale, in order not to depress the user that are more active with the unfortunately real low level of sustainability index achieved by the team itself. So this is something that has to be correct in order to not depress the single user that act sustainably. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So are there any question or remark from the audience? Okay, I have a question for curiosity. Because we have the opportunity to experience the presentation of a serious game in the urban context with students. And so we see that in some cases the players take the goal of the game or the assessment as their own goal in order to maybe to win the game.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if the goal of achieving the environmental sustainability through personal behavior will be told to the players at the beginning of the game or not, and if there is something that you take into account or.
Well, first of all, the communication through the index that could be calculated is presented at the beginning. So the main goal to achieve the sustainable behavior of the individual is clear. That is the goal of the game, and there is this possibility of trying to cheat it when trying. And so, in trying to achieve better levels that are not grounded on real action of the people. But for that, of course, it's something that we cannot control completely. But there are thresholds that we are putting in order to understand which kind of frequency could be registered as actions, in order to see if a user can cheat on the action he performed in order to achieve the game. Of course, if they can achieve the game, if they take the objective as their own goal, it's great because they have to win. It's the target, the game, the goal of the game. But of course, this possible cheating effect is present. But we are introducing control feature to reduce that. Of course, it's not going to be 100% possible with the daily actions because they are possible. They are reasonably possible to perform those. But yeah, for the long-lasting one, they would be reduced in terms of cheating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we can move to the last presentation of our session. I can see online the authors of the last paper presented, and I welcome Maria Rosa Trovato, Karen Cappello, Ludovica Nasca, and Vittoria Ventura that are sharing with us a presentation entitled Hypothesis of a Heterodox Evolutionary Assessment Approach for the Sustainable City. Thank you. You will have around 15 minutes and then we'll finish with some comments. Thank you very much. We can check your... we cannot hear?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
You can share your screen directly.
Yeah.
Please let us know if it works.
Okay.
We see the full screen now, yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Glad to show you this contribution in this important conference. Today, we propose a heterodox assessment approach of the municipality of Syracuse in Italy. This contribution is organized in 5 sections. The first explores a heterodox approach to represent the urban sustainability of the hyper-complex territorial social system. And the second one presents the case study of Syracuse, Italy, according with the 2 dimensions of the human and urban capital. And the method proposes an evolutionary approach aimed at representing some matrices of urban systems that are inertia, adaptation, and excitation. The city is a hyper-complex ecosocial system, and this home city landscape system can be represented in terms of human and urban capital. According to the 3 evolutionary matrices that are inertia, adaptation, and excitation, it's possible to outline the shape of the city capital from these perspectives. Syracuse is one of the most important art cities in Italy, and its foundation dates back to the first Greek colonization. The main urban architectural core is the well-known islet of Ortigia, and the contemporary city occupies the northern area of the municipal territory. Some of the most significant natural and landscape areas are the great and the small harbors, the Maddalena Peninsula with the Plemmure Reserve, and the coastal areas of Ognina and Fontane Bianche. The first part of the research is aimed at the information-based organization according to the above-mentioned forms of capital. A dendrogram was created to aggregate both the information units and the consequent multidimensional valuations. The representation by values of this territorial context is based on the multi-attribute value theory. It coordinates the functions of observation, normalization, reduction, and hierarchization of the elementary information units coming from the National Statistics Institute. This dataset characterized the 500 census sections in the municipal territory. As first, I'm going to show you some results from the orthodox approach by means of the queries from the GIS dataset. And this representation concerned the two categories of human and urban capital. The human capital is displayed with reference to inhabitants, foreigners, houses, and households. Population is described by means of 46 information units. Level education includes 14 elementary information units, also used as an indirect indicator of the socio-professional status. Labor is described by 12 indices of employment. Mobility of residents has a poor results more intensive in the peripheral areas of Isola, Fanusa, and Castilla due to the prevailing of student movement. With regard to foreigners, the maps show the concentration of residents around farms and countryside in some areas of the Borgata and the northern area. The two complementary indices of housing efficiency differently show the contradiction between landscape urban value of housing's location and the presence of residents. The household's property profile characterizes the different municipal areas, highlighting, for example, that property overcome lease in peripheral area, the Borgata instead has an interesting mix of both conditions, and rent prevails over property in Ortigia. The indices of household members confirm the tendency of larger households to occupy the newer urban areas of the more affordable neighborhoods. All these maps show the different ways of the building concentration in terms of the total amount of buildings, used buildings, and residential buildings. According to the time sequence of the building process shown in the smaller maps, the overall historic value of the built heritage is displayed in a general map. The map of the building density in terms of number of stories represents the urban landscape impact of the 70s, 80s urban expansion in North Syracuse. On the basis of the analysis of the state of preservation in the detailed maps, the general map shows an almost uniform level of degradation between the historic center and expansion areas, which, however, implies causes of different nature. The general map shows the synthesis between the three main components of the buildings of value coming from the property market observatory that are the building volume, the real estate market prices, and the capital gains. Another insert holding investments and the three property market factors like rent, prices, and cap rates. The second part of this study presents a heterodox approach based on the three evolutionary matrices of inertia, adaptation, and excitation of the urban and human ecosocial system. Inertia tries to valorize standards to arrive at the impact on development of urban space. Adaptation valorizes the energy supported the implementation of an adaptation. Excitation considers unemployed resources as unexpressed potential for creativity. The urban inertia is the physical consistence, that is, building volume and masonry systems, and the age and the historic value of buildings. The economic inertia depends on the local low income and on the real estate market performances. The social inertia refers to the conditions limiting social changes like elders and low education degree. The summary maps of the inertia suggest that the consolidated urban context like Ortigia can be considered invariants of the urban policies, and that the urban coastal areas of Ognina, Fontane Bianche, and Maddalena Peninsula need to be assumed as landscape references for preventing the waterfront from real estate attack. The concept of urban adaptation refers to the building expansion rate, explained by the transformation intensity of recent neighborhoods and to the mixité between historic and contemporary building. Social adaptation has been referred to the age of the residents and mostly to the presence of young people. A more adaptive capacity is seen in the expansion areas, and this confirms the greater inertia of the historic city. In summary, adaptation maps highlighting the vibrant areas in which new environmental identities can emerge. The concept of exaptation was introduced into the theory of evolution by Stephen Gould and Elizabeth Verba in 1982. Exaptation is the ability of an organism to use components for functions that are different from the original ones. Urban exaptation refers, in terms of urban and social capital, to the ratio between inhabitants and housing volume. In terms of property values, it refers to the capitalization ratio and the difference between ask price and official prices. Social exaptation depends on unemployment rate, and small households has an index of human capital for extra family activities. The exaptation overview identifies resources with remaining potential in three fields. As first, this uses industrial artifacts in semi-central areas. As second, valuable urban context with important unused buildings. And as third, in the less qualified historic center, the Borgata, and valuable areas of the waterfront. On the contrary, the entire area of the modern city has completely exhausted all potential for further uses. In conclusion, this approach supports the evolutionary interpretation of the house-city landscape system by valorizing the unexpressed potential by means of the matrices of inertia and exaptation. This research is an experience of evaluation science engaged in spreading and improving a value thinking approach. The introduction of values typically neglected contributes to enlarge the spectrum within which we recognize what actually counts and how much it does. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for your presentation. First of all, I leave the floor to the audience if there is any question or comment. Okay, so maybe I can make a short comment slash question. We found very interesting this approach that you presented, and also we read your paper, and in particular we were curious about one of the last sentences that you mentioned in defining this heterodox approach as an important stage of suspension of judgment, and it seemed to us, starting also from your presentation, that it's more like an awareness that values should be recognized and shared, so also maybe contextualized and localized. And we were wondering if you can comment this with respect to your presentation. Thank you very much. Oh, maybe we lost the presenter because she's no more here.
Let's wait just a minute for her to maybe
reconnect. Maybe she will connect again. Or if the co-author yes, or if the co-authors want to add something. We can wait some few seconds just to see if something happens. And some of you, sorry? Yes. Okay, maybe the co-authors know something about the presenter, or if not, I think we should conclude. I take this time just to thank all the participants. Can you hear us from the one who are online, or is it a problem of audio?
No, because I reopened the audio.
Okay.
You came back. Sorry, I don't know if you heard our comment or. Okay.
Can you repeat, please?
We can hear you. Then I will close the microphone so after commenting, so I can leave you the answer. So I was just saying that we were so we read also your paper, and starting also from the comments you made in your presentation, we were curious about the definition of this heterodox approach as a sort of suspension of judgment, as you mentioned in the very last part also of the paper. In particular, we interpreted it as a need for a shared and aware definition of values that is maybe also, that needs to be also localized and contextualized. So maybe this heterodox approach help also to take into account the specificities of places, as you said. And we were wondering just to comment something about it, if you agree.
Yeah, thank you. It's an interesting question. And usually an orthodox approach valorizes what can be considered efficiency and effectiveness. This kind of approach does not consider the unexpressed potential that can emerge in some specific contexts and times, and like the case of the small town centers in the ecological transition context. Maybe an heterodox approach manifests the intention to consider both the past accumulated values and the future possible values. The conceptual matrix of a heterodox approach in economics is the Keynesian model. And like the first law, for example, that explains the preference of liquidity and the consequent tendency to hoarding. And in fact, hoarding is supported by the recognition of hidden or latent values that can be enabled by the changes of the social, economic, environmental context. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this last comment. So if there isn't any other comment, I would like to thank you and all the other presenters. Thank you also to our co-chairs for the first part of this session. And it was really interesting, and we come to this second part of also our workshop. Thank you very much also for you at home.